All right. So today we are going to be talking about how we can use Docker um for our local environment. My name is Fida, and we're going to have multiple services, like more than one, and then you can Dockerize them. You can Dockerize those services, and then later on you can containerize them and use it inside of your development environment on your local machine. So I have two services over here. One is backend service, one front-end services. They're pretty simple services. It's a simple Express.js server running on which serves a couple of APIs, and also front end, which is a React app. So if you wanna take a look at them, we can do is that go inside of the front end project and do a code dot on it, and then we can simply do an npm start, and you will be able to see that it's a simple create React app which is running. See, it's going to start the server. If you go to the browser, you will see simple React app inside of our front-end folder. If you go back and see the backend, you can do the same with backend. We can open it up in the Visual Studio Code, and then we can simply do an npm start on it too, and you will see that we have okay, the port is already in use. So what we are going to do is that let's kill the port first, kill the process which is containing the port. Thus sudo kill. I'm on Ubuntu. If you're on other operating system, it would have a different command on that operating system. So on Ubuntu, this command will 5000. This is going to kill the process on that port. And now if I do npm start, see, it started on 5000 port. So we have these two services. One is running on port 3000, one is running on port 5000. Hello from backend, and there is a simple route there, API user, which serves us this user JSON. So we have a front end, we have a backend service, both inside of a single folder or a project. Okay, let's close this down, and let's set our servers down. Let's close this, and also let's come back and close this. Let's close both of this. Alright, so let's go back to our project root, our TechTut, and open it up in the terminal. Just go dot on both of the services so that we take a look at them in VS Code. This is our backend, this is our front end. Let's create a couple of files over here. So I'm on the root of this TechTut folder, so let's create a file, Docker Compose. On Linux, you have to touch it. On your operating system, you can create it in different ways. Touch the Docker Compose file, also touch another file but inside of the front end, and that going to be Docker file, front and sorry, Docker file. Also on the back, inside the backend folder, I'll do the same. Alright, so I have three more files. One is Docker Compose, which is empty now. One is Docker file inside of our backend folder, and Docker file inside of our frontend folder. Alright, let's go inside of the backend folder first, and get inside of our Docker file. So it's a Docker file, and we actually have to start from somewhere. If you don't have an in-depth knowledge of Docker, you need to go to the documentation and read for yourself at Docker docs. So you can read all of the documentation over here, how to create Docker files, how to create Docker Compose files, and all of that stuff. Getting started with Docker. So see, all of the concepts are here. So we're actually working on the services section. This So that's why we're going to be talking mostly about how we create services uh, inside of a Docker Compose. All right, so we are going to start from some already built image, which is going to be our base image. Our base image is going to be a node image. uh, I think I might be using 8.15.1, and it's an Alpine image. So if you want to read about the Alpines and all that stuff, that's beyond the scope of this video, so you can read that in the documentation too. So this image which we are actually which is going to be our base image, this image is again, this will have some other base images, like an OS image like Ubuntu or something. Another thing we're going to be doing is that we're going to create a directory. So we're going to run a command which is going to make directory. So these are well, if you want to run a console commands relating to your operating system, you can do that by issuing a run command over here. So we're going to create a directory inside of a container, which we'll call it backend. Alright, so first thing I will do is that I have package.json file inside of the directory, inside of the current directory which I'm in. I'm going to move this package.json file inside of the new directory which is created, and into the package.json. So this this will do is that it will copy this package.json and put it inside of the directory which is created. One more thing which I need to mention: create a directory, but we need to tell Docker that this is going to be our current directory, work directory. So this is our work directory, right? Backend. Alright, so we create a directory. We actually tell them this is our work directory. This is our work directory. Another thing I'm going to be doing is that I copy this JSON. Now I need to, there's nothing inside of the directory except for the JSON file for now, so it just have the package.json file. So I'm going to run a command which is npm install, and what it does is that actually it looks up inside of the JSON package.json and install of the dependencies inside of this folder. So actually what it's going to do is that it create a node modules folder inside of this directory. So when that's done, I'm going to copy the whole source now. Copy everything to where? To a directory called backend. Alright, and finally I'm going to issue a command which is npm start. So this command will run once the container is created and the container is going to spin up. Then this will actually run npm start. See, like this. Alright, so our Docker file is complete. What I can do is that I just copy paste it for the front end too, because front end has the same okay. Well, I can leave the backend there, but I will just call it front end this time. Front end, and do npm start on this too. Alright, next thing I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to write a compose file which will actually create services out of this two folders. So actually I already wrote a compose file here. It's version 3. Don't worry about that. If you want to know about what version of or what kind of services and what kind of features, you can go to the documentation and read about that. So we have a backend service, we have a front-end service. So backend service, if we had an image, we can specify an image name over here, but we don't have an image. So what it does is that it will go inside of the backend folder over here and create an image for itself. And then when it's containerized, the container name is going to be a backend service. We're exposing a port, which is a backend port, and so if you look at the env file over here, I have a couple of environment variables declared, which is a React app port and backend port. and I'm exposing them inside of our Docker Compose file. So exposing that code. Basically, the Docker Compose file have access to the environment variable which are inside of the env file. Okay, I'm exposing them. I'm mapping these two ports. So if what it does is that the port inside of our container we mapped onto the port from where we're accessing it. So if I'm accessing another 3000 port from my machine, it's going to map it to the 3000 port on the container. Volumes are important because if we are going to make some changes inside of the backend folder on our local machine, it's going to actually mount it again, reflect it inside of the container. So that way we will actually stay up to date, and our live reloads will work inside of this container. We don't need this user folder. So it's a front-end service. This is the back-end service. This is the front-end services. It does the same. It will go inside the front-end and build an image for itself, expose a port from the env file, declare an environment variable, map the ports to the container ones, name the container, and also then mount the volume inside of the front-end folder. Alright, so our Docker Compose file, it's ready. What we can do is that we can go, I'm gonna close that Windows. I'm gonna go to the directory, open here. I can do the same over here too. So if I just get a little bit more room over here, can do docker minus or dash compose minus t dash dash build. So this command is going to look for a Docker Compose file and spin up these two services which we have, right? Sorry, I think we did a mistake. So Docker Compose up is required. We'll skip the D for now. Alright, so it's going to build the front-end image and then it's going to build the back-end image, but let me tell you here that if your service, if some service depends on some other service, you can do that too. Like for example, if I do depends on here and then mention service name like backend, then it's going to wait for backend service to complete first and then do the first it will let the backend service complete and then it's going to run. So first the backend service gets created and then the front-end service will get created. Alright, it seems like we have a sort of an error over here. When it was like file pages, you should come with okay, or no worries, these are just warnings. Alright, so for front-end services, it's going to like run all the steps from the Docker Compose file, so step 1 to 7. So it's actually running the commands which we wrote inside of the Docker file, inside of the front-end folder, and once it successfully creates the image for front-end, which it did, and tagged it teaching service. So and then so when both of these images gets created, they are finally recreate these services. So we have a backend service, we have a front-end service, and finally both the services commands are run, which are npm start for the backend service and npm start for the front-end service. So we got these services on the 5000 port over here and on the 3000 port over here. So if you head back to our browser, we will be able to access these services inside of our browser on the specified ports. So if I go to API users, and same thing for the front-end image. See, that's simple. All right, so see you in next video. Goodbye.